Hello, welcome to this chess lesson. In this video, I'll be explaining a common mistake that players will make in the Four Knights game. It's a really easy mistake to make because it seems like a natural move, and because it seems so natural, a lot of beginners will fall into this mistake. So pay attention. So e4, e5, knight to f3, knight c6, knight c3, knight f6. And now we have the Four Knights game because you can count 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 4 knights. So now, Four Knights game. The common mistake that people make in this position is playing bishop to c4. It seems like a natural move because it's similar to like a Giuoco piano opening, putting the bishop on c4 where it targets f7. But this is a mistake because it allows black this move here, this knight takes e4. It looks like this pawn's guarded because this knight was defending it. But we'll see that if white goes ahead and captures this knight here, that now black has a nice trick here. d5, forking the bishop and knight, and he'll regain his piece. In this position, the most common move for white is taking the pawn. One of the most common moves is taking the pawn. But this would allow queen takes d5, and now the position is better for black in my opinion, because he has the two bishops, and white has the two knights. In my view, two bishops in a position like this is slightly better, because the center's kind of open, and these bishops are going to have no trouble getting out with these open diagonals like this. And they're going to come to active squares, and it's going to be difficult for these two knights to put up a fight. Now, if we go back to the position after d5, one of the other most common moves is bishop to d3. So that if the pawn takes the knight, and then the bishop can take back the pawn. This position I also like black better, because again, the two bishops, open diagonals, they're going to have no trouble finding active squares, as all these pawns are moved out and allow these bishops to come out. So black certainly can't be worse here because of that. In this position, white hasn't given up his two bishops, but simply blacks are all ready to come out. And he'll have no trouble putting up resistance. So it's not a very ambitious way for white to play for an advantage, because as white you get the first move. You should be trying to create as much pressure on black as you can if you get that first move. And this really just doesn't get it done. This bishop's a little funny placed here as well. I dislike it here. The only real threat that black will have to guard against is this pawn here, because should the bishop take, it could take with check. So you have to make sure this bishop can't take the knight, with check allowing this pawn to come undefended. After a move like bishop to d6, you'll be fine. This pawn defended, as now with the bishop takes the knight with check, then you don't have to worry about this knight coming in and taking that pawn. Now let's go back once more to d5. There's one more common move after this. I view it as probably the worst option for white. Computer thinks so as well. Queen to e2, and the computer really doesn't like this. Stockfish says this is like a whole positional point better for black, because now after pawn takes the bishop, and the queen takes back. The same thing as earlier. Black has 2 bishops, white only has 1, and the center's open. So I really prefer black here. There's one last trick to be aware of, is that if we go back here to the sort of starting position, after knight takes e4, white sometimes tries this bishop takes f7 check, thinking that he's going to get rid of the fork before it happens, while taking this f7 pawn and forcing the king to move. And yes, that does prevent the fork, it does make the black king move, but this really isn't anything for white to really feel proud about. Because now after this knight captures, then d5 is still played. It doesn't create the fork, but now black has excellent control of the center. And after a move like knight eats g5, the king retreats. You can say this king's a little awkwardly placed here, but in my opinion, whenever you have this good of control of the center and your opponent is lacking any real occupation in the center, then anything else really can take a backseat to that, because you'll have excellent control of the game. And so for all of these reasons, I really don't think the bishop to c4 is a really good move at all. I view it as a mistake. Yeah, so I hope that you avoid making that move in the future for all of these reasons. That's all for this lesson. Thanks for watching.